So what I'm going to cover is how to custom make a horn out of 2 tabs if you don't have these dog-legged tabs. So the idea behind these type of horns is the offset. And what I mean by offset is the angle. So what they're trying to do in this concept, they're trying to actually keep this push rod to the axis of the flap horn vertical at 90 degrees. So if you're coming off the bell crank at this angle, you want the flap horn to angle forward like this. And then of course if you're over here going to the elevator, on some configurations you might want it to angle backwards. So all this geometry depends on your airplane. So let's just say you get into a scenario that this won't work and this won't work. So you want to custom make your own. Bob Hunt and I talked about the G10 board horns, and those are coming. There's a couple things I got to finalize. It's not so much how to make them, it's the tooling. This is one option out of many. There's not one solution. There's many. So this is just an option. But in order to go with this option I'm about ready to show you, you got to be able to braze. And then there's other videos where I showed you how to accurately drill holes, within 1/1000th of an inch, and I'll refer to those, or I'll put a link in the description on this video. So the concept is this one needs to lean forward and this part here needs to lean back. Okay, so in order to get there, what I first need to do is line this edge up here with the center line of the wing and the flap. And if it's not already straight on your C-temp, cut a straight edge in your C-temp. What I like to do on a square, and these come in handy for a lot of different things, I'll take another carpenter square and I'll scribe a line right here into the plexiglass. And what that allows me to do is lay the plexiglass over the plans like such, and then scribe a 90-degree line to it, or mark it. So what I need to do in this case, I need to mark off 90 degrees to this push rod. So this is my fulcrum point right here, and I'll take this scribe line in the plexiglass and I'll line it up to the push rod just like that. So now I know from the push rod coming off the bell crank to the first flap horn, this is the angle I want for 90 degrees. Now if you want anything other than 90, obviously you got to get a protractor in there. So now the next step is to go from the fulcrum point here, and I'll come over here to where this push rod is, and I'm going to flip this over here so I can get, and I want 90 degrees from here. Anytime you make an adjustment at your elevator horn back there, it's going to throw this off, whatever. But I'm not going to get into the geometry. There's been so many people come up with some good stuff. It's on Stun Hanger. Howard Rush put out a video, and Sparky made a standalone video of the program that he came up with to get this geometry. So I'll leave that to the experts. But all I'm trying to do here is show you how to actually make a horn with geometry that's unconventional. So this is what I need. So you got to remember, right here is the let's just call it the datum line. We'll come off and we're going to braze this horn to your wire at this angle. We're going to braze this horn at this angle. This C-temp is going to be the template to accomplish that. Now, if you're new to C-temp, you'll know that you don't actually cut all the way through. All you need to do is score the material, and then you'll actually break it. Because this will be my template to set the horns up. This is this K&S brass tube. There's my horn uprights. These are just, everything's just floating right now. You're going to get some creep when you crank this wire around the post. And I overshoot it a little bit, and then I spring it back to get the 90. The tricky part is, without a jig, is to figure out how much creep is going to come into this, because as you bend this wire around the post, it's going to want to pull this way. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get this parallel on the same plane as your bend. Let's tighten this foot vise down a little loose. Let's pull it around here. Now, being drill rod, I get a little tweakability in this with this wire. You go on the outside diameter, it's 2 3/4, so that's what I wanted. I guess we're looking at a 1/8 inch creep. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to put this in a fixture, and we're going to take the template we made to get the right angle on this flap horn. It's clamped between these two plates. There's a magnet here that holds these 1/8 inch rods, and by sliding these rods back and forth on top of the magnet, allows me to get the angle I need. And I can just get a visual right here to see if it's the right angle. I also put these angles on the C-temp, so I can slide this back and forth and eyeball it. So I changed this template a little bit, cut it shorter, moved the magnet back, and I've got this cut here for the angle for the front horn. So pull this back a little bit, get the right angle. Measure it this way to make sure it's centered. Now these have been cleaned, the drill rod's been clean, and the horn tabs, the upright, have been clean. I always like to take this 45% silver braze, and I'll go through there after the fact here and cut this tip off. You can see where it's a little corroded. I'll go in there and nip that off. Try to start with a clean rod there. I always like to take some Scotch-Brite, clean any of the tarnish off of it. Try to keep it as clean as possible. And this is getting a little crusty, but I think it's still okay. Now what I like to do is load this up with a lot of flux. By putting a lot of flux on this, it allows me to clean it up a little bit easier. This is what I use, just propane. That's all there is to it. It's pretty quick process. I like this fixture. I mean, this whole fixture was an accident, it was scrap. But I like it because you can actually turn the horn different ways. It's heavy enough to where the horn is stable. I'm able to do a lot of clamping with the uprights. But it's nice if I ever want to braze at this angle. So it gives me the flexibility to rotate the horn. So I don't know, it might be worthwhile to find a machine shop with some scrap, some bar stock like this. There's another place, it's called Metal Supermarkets. You can go in there and they'll actually cut you any size you want off of bar stock. So I've got K&S 332nd ID brass in here, and I'm going to braze it with 45% silver Harris. This is probably 1/32. It's a really fine wire. It's the same alloy as what I just used back here on the horn, just smaller diameter, and works out good for these little bushings. So the way this bush works out, I mean, you can run a 3/32 music wire in this bushing, but probably what I'll do is I'll cut them down a little bit or file them down. And I like to put them in there oversized, so that way I can tell if they're lined up, and it allows me to get the braze on there without it going inside the tube. And what I'll do, if I go with the ball link, I'll just go ahead and run a 440 tap through the center of this. So same as before, you just let it cool. You don't want to get this so hot that you mess up this braze, you know. And that's what's nice about this small wire. You know, it seems like it melts a little bit quicker, not as much heat.